I know you guys want to hear my reaction of what just happened in the game between the Sounders versus the Quakes, where not only the Sounders put 7 past the Quakes in that game, that was easily the worst Quakes game I have ever watched in my life. But I'm going to save my reaction of this game last in this review, as I'm going to first talk about these first 5 games that happened in this week midweek action. But if you don't want to wait for me to get my reaction in terms of the demolition that happened in tonight in Seattle, then there's always a timestamp in the description below, and you basically just can click on the time when I start talking about this game and have my reaction into it. And I know this is also going to be a bit of a long review because I'm going to definitely take time in terms of reviewing and reacting of just such a horror show that I've saw the San Jose Earthquakes put in this game. But first of all, let us actually talk about the first game, which was Inter Miami versus Atlanta, which Miami was able to win 2-1 against Atlanta United. And that if you ignore the second half, this was actually a very crazy game, and that we actually saw something happen in this game that was very similar to what happened in the Canadian Classic last week between Montreal and Toronto. Now, in the first half, 4 minutes into this game, Guzan was able to rob Pizarro a chance to give Miami a 1-0 lead. Then Robbie Robinson had a big chance to potentially give Inter Miami the opening goal, but unfortunately he puts the shot wide, as it felt like at that point this was kind of like here we go again moment for Inter Miami, that they just are a team that have so many chances in terms of putting the ball into the back of the net, but they just can't do it because of lack of finishing. But little do we know, 9 minutes later, they would eventually put the ball into the back of the net, and Lewis Morgan would score his first goal, not only for Inter Miami, but his first ever MLS goal from Pizarro to give Inter Miami a 1-0 lead. And before Inter Miami had a chance to celebrate that they're able to take an early lead, Atlanta immediately equalized 5 minutes later, and it would be Remedi, the one that was able to tie the game up, and this was definitely not good defending from Inter Miami, and especially on Reyes' part, where, you know, the definition of ball watching, well, Reyes basically took the definition of ball watching to another dimension with the way that he basically just kind of look at the ball, and I just don't know why he just look at the ball and decide not to clear the ball, and he basically just kind of allowed Remedi, who was literally on the ground there, to be able to slot it into the back of the net. And that is one of those rare times where you can see a player that is physically on the ground and somehow in some way he's able to still slot it home into the back of the net. But Reyes, come on, you have to clear that ball away with the way that you just literally look at that ball for a couple of seconds. But the good news for Inter Miami is that they would quickly retake the lead in the 37th minute, and it would be Lewis Morgan again, which looked like he might have just scored the goal of the week with an absolute banger from about 27 yards out to give a 2-1 lead for Miami. But it looked like once again that lead was going to quickly extinguish, and this is where we get to the craziest sequence I have seen this season, or at least one of the craziest sequences I've seen this season in MLS. So just to kind of talk about the result of this crazy sequence, Robles was able to save Barco on the penalty shot. But if you would have go back 3 minutes later when this crazy sequence happened, this all started when Figal, of course, were basically they brought down Gallagher near the edge of the 18-yard box, and originally the Inter Miami announcer said that it was a free kick, but I saw the referee kind of points to the penalty spot, and I wonder did they not see the referee actually points to the penalty spots, and that clearly didn't look like it was a free kick. But at the same time, I also kind of understand why they got confused, because this was right on the edge of the box, and there was definitely discussion whether or not if this was outside the box or inside the box. But I saw it a couple of times on the replay, and it looked like it was clearly inside the box. Then there was a discussion of whether or not if this is actually a red card from Figao, and my answer to that is yes. It probably should have been a red card on Figao, because the way that Figao, who not only brought down Gallagher in the box, but he basically swing his arm right into Gallagher's face, and usually when you decide to do that, and especially when he looked like he did that on purpose, that is a straight red any day of the game. And the fact that that wasn't a red card given to Figao, he is very, very lucky. The fact that he was able to stay into that game. And that, I know after the game, Stefan Glass was very angry with that call, and that he points out as the moment of the reason why we probably lost this game. Although I will say that, while that was a bad call for Atlanta, there are also a couple of reasons why Atlanta wasn't able to win the game. And one of the biggest reason is the next part of this crazy sequence. So Barco, of course, were stepping up to basically take this penalty. Robles was able to save the penalty, but Cubo Torres basically puts it in on the rebound, and it was 2-2 in this game, or that's what we thought it was going to happen, because then they go to VAR to see whether or not if there was a possible encroachment that happened to Cubo Torres. And this is also where I go back to talking about what this instant is very similar to what happened last week in that Canadian Classic game. We remember last week in that Canadian Classic game where Toronto had a goal that was disallowed because Piatti basically encroached into the box, and that goal, of course, was disallowed. The reason why this goal was not disallowed, and well, this goal was disallowed, but it was a retake for Atlanta, is that Barco did try to hit that one on the penalty kick, whereas last week it was pretty clear that Pozuelo was just passing the ball to Piatti to easily strike that. And while that is definitely a clever thing to do, the only problem is Piatti was encroach into the box, and that in this play, Cubo Torres clearly was in the box before Barco actually struck it, which is clearly encroachment. But since Robles was able to save, and that Barco at least attempt to trying to hit this one from the penalty spot, that's why this was being retake instead of a goal being disallowed. But obviously, I know there was a lot of Inter Miami players, including Luis Robles, was not happy the fact that a retake was happening instead of this goal being wiped off. So, second attempt at this, Barco versus Robles, and this is where we get to what I mentioned a couple of minutes ago, where Robles once again came up big, and he was basically able to save Barco, who I think Barco for the second penalty kick, he basically gone the same way that he did in the first penalty kick. And I guess the Inter Miami staff basically told Robles that Barco most likely is going to go the same way. And it seemed like Robles listened to that advice, and he made a huge save to keep this game at 2-1 for Inter Miami as we head to halftime at that score. Now, in the second half, yeah, this is where there really isn't a lot to talk about, because not really a lot of chances happen in the second half, and it just feels like both team was kind of settled the fact that it was going to be a 2-1 win for Inter Miami, and that's kind of the way it worked out in this game, as the final shots in this game was 13-8 in favor of Atlanta. Atlanta had 5 shots on goal compared to 3 that Miami has, 2 shots off target compared to 3 that Inter Miami has, 6 shots that was blocked compared to 2 that Inter Miami has, 65% possession compared to 35% possession that Inter Miami has. And going back to what I said about Stefan Glass, not happy with that call, and saying that was kind of one of the turning point and one of the reasons why his team wasn't able to get a victory. Well, again, it was a bad call, and that Figao clearly should have been sent off in that moment. But in that second half, they didn't show any signs of pushback, and didn't show any signs of trying to get the equalizer and try to pressure Miami for the last couple of minutes. And that alone is probably the reason why they lost this game, and that it's not because of the fact that they, of course, missed a penalty. Well, it's not because of the red card that should have been given to Figao, and I guess the other reason you could say is the missed penalty, and that, yeah, I feel like Elena, they need to find a new penalty kick taker because Barco clearly is not the answer after he missed 2 penalty in that sequence. And for Inter Miami, they're still unbeaten at home. So despite the fact how bad this season has been for Inter Miami, they're still unbeaten at home, and that, they can of course continue to translate the way that they play at home onto their road form, then they can easily get back into the conversation in the playoffs. And that, remember, in the Eastern Conference, there's going to be 10 teams that gets to go to the playoffs. And knowing the fact that the Eastern Conference have a lot of bad teams, it doesn't take much before you can get a good run going in these next couple of games, and all of a sudden you are in the conversation of being in the playoffs. So don't count out Miami yet. The fact that even with this historic bad start that they had as an expansion team, if they can put away some resort and get some points, they could really be in the conversation of being on the bubble of making the playoffs. But moving on, in terms of the next match, is Minnesota and FC Dallas. And boy, oh boy, this was a very stressful game for the Loons. And in many ways, I feel like this game shouldn't be very stressful, at least for the last 15 minutes, if the defense were actually solid as they have been in the last game and pretty much for the first 30 minutes of this one. And that if there wasn't a questionable red card that I, of course, will talk about that happened right near the end of this game. Now, in the first half, I thought Minnesota were clearly by far the better team to start this game, and that they looked like they were all over Dallas in the early part of this game. And they took advantage of that early dominance when Mason Toye was able to score from Robin Lod. Always love to see Mason Toye able to score a goal, although I will say this, he's got to do better in terms of his finishing, and also try to create space for other people, and also kind of stay relevant for the full 90 minutes. Because I thought Mason Toye, while he had a good first 30 minutes of this game, for the last 60 minutes, it was not good at all, and he had a pretty big miss in the second half that probably, if he would have took that one away, Minnesota would not have a stressful situation that they had to deal with in the last 10 minutes. Then in the 28th minute, Molino was able to score from Metanir and Reynoso, and this was just beautiful soccer that I saw, and just beautiful development of the play where the team were making some incredible passing, and just some nice little 1-2 combination was able to set Molino to basically hit this one into the back of the net. And Minnesota was up 2-0 at that point, and I thought the route was going to be on FC Dallas, and this is going to be like that RSL game, going to be a convincing win for Minnesota. But to the credit of FC Dallas and to Luchi Gonzalez, he did do a good job in terms of adjusting, and it was pretty clear that Luchi Gonzalez clearly got his tactics wrong for the first 25 minutes of the game, but he did make some adjustment, and that one of the adjustments that he made is that he decided to attack this Minnesota team on the flank area. And boy, was that tactics actually very successful, because when Barrios was kind of running through the flank area, we just had no answer in terms of trying to catch him up. And that he actually almost scored a goal and give one back for FC Dallas, but unfortunately he hit the post in the 37th minute before Dallas do get that goal back. And it would be Ricardo Pepi scores from Brian Reynolds and Michael Barrios. And again, this came right on the flank area where we just cannot deal with the pace of Barrios. Then Reynolds was able to basically put a perfect ball into the middle where Pepi was able to slot that one home to give Dallas some life heading into halftime. Now, in the second half, I thought the Loons did a little bit better job in terms of trying to contain one of their weakness in this game, which is that flank area that we were just really exploiting. And they had a couple of chances to make it 3-1. First, it came in the 51st minute when Zubak had to rob Molino a chance to get the third goal. Before Barrios, he probably should have equalized in the 64th minute after going one-on-one with Sinclair here, and this was all because of a bad mistake. I believe it was Robin Laird that basically put a bad pass to Boxall, and that Boxall was kind of in a very tough situation where Barrios was kind of pressing him, and that Barrios basically picked Boxall pocket. He was one-on-one with the goalkeeper, and the fact that he did not even put that one on target just to shows how bad of a miss that is, and that is definitely one that Barrios is going to be tossing and turning at night to remember, as that is the moment that Dallas could have tied the game up, and that the Loons absolutely got away with just a terrible defensive mistake at that point. Now, in the 65th minute, it was Molino's turn to basically get victimized by the post as he hit it in the 65th minute before he was able to score on the penalty spots in the 70th minute after Dallas, of course, conceded a penalty. I forgot who exactly conceded that penalty. I actually wrote it down here on my notes here so I can, of course, look at here. Oh, it was Holland's head, the one that, of course, brought down Métanire in the box, and it was pretty clear that it was a penalty with the way that Holland's head kind of recklessly dived into the box, didn't get the ball whatsoever. It was always going to be a penalty, which again Molino was able to put away to give the Loons some daylight, and that I thought at that point maybe that was game, set, and match, and Dallas wasn't going to come back into this game. Oh, how wrong I was! Because in the 77th minute, Mascara was able to score from Brisson and Riccardi to give Dallas a 3-2 lead, and the game was back on before Métanire would be sent off after he, of course, show his studs up and basically slides right into Recate there. And I feel like in this instant, this was kind of a little bit harsh, the fact that Métanire got a red card. And you can call me biased all you want, but I feel like this was kind of a 50-50 ball that Métanire and Recate was going for it, and that it just feel like it was kind of unfortunate, the fact that Métanire did catch his studs onto Recate's body. But I've seen it at times when that, of course, does happen, that a yellow card is issued instead of a straight red. But either way, a red card was shown, and that the Loons were down to 10 men, and yeah, they were just hanging on for dear life for the last 7 minutes. Like, Dallas was just pressing to try to get that third goal to tie the game up, but the good news for Minnesota is that they're just able to hang on into this game. And I think after the 5th minute of stoppage time and the final whistle was blown, I can breathe a sigh of relief of how I was just so nervous, and I just feel like it was going to be inevitable that Dallas was going to find a late equalizer. But thank goodness it didn't happen. The Loons are able to hold on to win 3-2 in this game. And in terms of shots in this game, 19 shots compared to 12 that Dallas had, 6 shots on goal compared to 2 that Dallas has, 10 shots off target compared to 6 that Dallas had, 3 shots that was blocked compared to 4 that Dallas had, and possession-wise, 54% possession compared to 46% possession. But I think Adrian Heath, after this game, he probably is not going to be happy with the way that this team just barely hanging on to get all 3 points on the road, and that there's still going to be some concern that I have with this Minnesota team, knowing the fact that, again, we have so many players that is on the injured reserve list right now, and knowing the fact that Métanire is not going to be available in the next game unless if we're able to successfully appeal for his red card, then yeah, we are going to be heading into that SKC game very short-handed, and I'm definitely not confident heading into that one with the way that we are just going to be short-handed, and that he is going to forced to play kind of his B team against an SKC team that desperately need a victory. But moving on, in terms of the next match, is the Canadian Classique, which it was Toronto able to get a last-minute winner in this game as they won 2-1 in this one. And in the first half, in the 6th minute, Clement Diop was able to deny Piatti from long range, and that once again, Clement Diop, I thought he had a very decent game, and there was definitely a couple of times that he was able to deny TFC a chance to score a goal, and that for majority part of this game, I thought it was the same issue that TFC's been having for these past couple of games that has occurred to this back-to-back loss that they had in the last 2 games, which is they just cannot finish in front of goal. Taidir did had a chance to give Montreal the lead, and maybe he should have given Montreal the lead when he had a free header that unfortunately he just hit that one wide. Before Piatti would eventually score the opening goal, but this one wasn't actually a tap-in, this one actually wasn't a banger of a goal as you would see Piatti tends to do. This was actually just a tap-in that he was able to score from Richie Laret, who feeds the ball perfectly to him into the back post, and Piatti basically scored probably the easiest goal he will ever do in his career to give Toronto a 1-0 lead up to that point. But Montreal looked like they quickly equalized just 2 minutes later when Kyoto was able to put the ball into the back of the net, but unfortunately the goal was disallowed, and that they had to go to VAR to see whether or not if Kyoto was in an offside position when the ball was coming in, and the answer is yes, but not by much though. So the game remains 1-0 in favor of Toronto heading into the second half, but Montreal eventually did get that equalizer in the 53rd minute when Victor Wanyama scores his first MLS career goal in the 53rd minute to tie the game up for the Impact before Diop would return to his stood on his head's kind of duty by robbing Richie Laret in the 57th minute. Westberg then had to deny Kyoto as Montreal did had a decent chance to potentially take the lead, but I thought for majority part of this game, TFC definitely looked like the better team and looked like they were going to potentially get the second goal, and they almost did in the 80th minute when Diop once again was able to make a good save, this time on Josie Altidore, but unfortunately 9 minutes later Altidore would be able to score the winning goal from De Leon to give TFC a 2-1 lead, and I like how he basically did the shushing kind of celebration there at the end. Kind of reminds me of what he did last year when he also scored a late winner, and I think he also did that same celebration in front of the Montreal Ultras, although I'm not sure this time it's going to be as signature as the one that he did last time, because this time there wasn't really anybody in the stands in this game, and there was I think around 250 people that was attending this game. I think there was like only 4 people from the Montreal Ultras that was in the stands, and I'm not quite sure do they really care the fact that Altidore basically was just trying to shush them in the stands there. But either way, Toronto was able to snap their mini 2-game losing run by able to get revenge on Montreal in this game. Shots in this game, 13 shots compared to 7 that Montreal has, 10 shots on goal compared to 3 that Montreal has, 2 shots off target compared to 3 that Montreal has. Both teams had 1 shot that was blocked, and possession-wise, 47% possession compared to 53% possession that Toronto have in this game, and obviously Montreal will feel hard done in this game as they were so close to able to get a point out of this one. But for TFC, they are able to finally get a win after their little mini slide that they were going, but overall there is still some big issue in terms of finishing in this game. And while Clement Diop definitely did a great job in terms of making some big save in this one, there are a couple of times where I feel like if TFC is going to be a team that is going to compete in the Eastern Conference, those are going to be the chances that they have to bury, because when they do play against a better team and that they don't get a lot of chances in front of goals, that could be a little bit of an issue with the way that this team just tends to struggle in terms of trying to find that clinical finishing throughout the game. But moving on, in terms of the next match, is the Colorado Rapids and the Houston Dynamo. And Tab Ramos basically kind of took a book out of Freddy Juarez in this game, and that is he decided to once again play his reserve team and hope that since his team is playing a lowly Colorado team on the road, that he can somehow able to sneak all 3 points out of this game. And it looked like for the most part that plan actually worked out in this one for the Dynamo, and that they were on their way for their 4th victory in a row. But Colorado, for most part of this game, they were really pressuring the Dynamo, and that they had a chance to get the opening goal just 7 minutes in the game when Warner unfortunately hits the post. Then Marich had to deny Kai Kamara, as Colorado, they look like not only the better team, but they were really putting some shooting practice in front of Marich goal, and that it was kind of surprising the fact that they weren't able to get the opening goal in the first half, despite the fact that they looked super dominant. Although I will say that maybe it's not so surprising considering the Rapids, yeah, they have been struggling for these past 6 games, and it's no surprise when you're on a 6-game winning or winless run, and that you are basically for once have a game that you're actually dominant, that the goals still aren't able to find into the back of net, because I bet a lot of those attackers for the Rapids must be having a lot of low confidence in terms of actually putting the ball into the back of the net. But as we head into the second half, it would be Houston that were able to get the opening goal, and it came 20 seconds into the second half when Christian Ramirez scored from Memo Rodriguez, and this was just kind of a classic moment where the Rapids just did not come out of the gate and kind of was sleepwalking heading into the second half, and they were punished immediately because of that. But after they gave up the opening goal, they once again returned to be the team that looks like the better side and the one that was potentially going to get the next goal. Austin Trusty probably should have made it 1-1 when he had a chance to score from the back post from 4 yards out, but unfortunately he puts it wide. And I think after that, Tab Ramos realized that since Colorado was really threatening to get that equalizer, he's going to now bring on the cavalry and start to bring out some of the players that could have started in this game if they did not play back on Saturday. And in the 75th minute, Lassiter, which actually he didn't score in this moment. I'm going to erase this Houston part. But he almost made it 2-0, but unfortunately he pushed the shot wide. And then as this game continued to go on, it looked like the Dynamo was able to just sneak out a 1-0 victory against a Rapids team that is going to be feeling very frustrated with how much they dominate in this game, and they come home empty-handed. But that was kind of the feeling until the 96th minute, when Lalas Abubakar, of all players, was able to score the winner from Sam Vines. And if you thought that this was just a header from Abubakar, oh no. This was basically a ball that Sam Vines put into the box to Abubakar. And the fact that he was able to bring that one down and just strike it into the back of the net like a striker, like, I was absolutely stunned that was actually Abubakar the one that was able to do, and it wasn't any other Colorado Rapids attacker that was able to score a goal, because it's not every day you see a center back like that is able to bring the ball down cleanly and just strike it into the back of the net. But credit Abubakar for doing that, and that of course tied the game up, and in the end, that of course was the final score in this game, as the Rapids were able to salvage a point right at the death in this one. Shots in this game, 26 shots compared to 10 that Houston had, 7 shots on goal compared to 3 that the Dynamo has, 10 shots off target compared to 7 that the Dynamo has, 9 shots out of block compared to none that Dynamo has, and possession-wise, 65% possession compared to 35% possession. And I know as much as Dynamo fans are going to be frustrated with this performance, knowing that, oh, look, looked like the old Dynamo team that usually concede goals very late in this game. Just to let you know that this was a very weak Dynamo team, and I'm pretty sure Tab Ramos in the next game, he's not going to put such a weak team in this next one, and that it's kind of unfortunate that he was just on the doorstep in terms of stealing this game away, despite the fact that he basically put a beat team out of this one against the Rapids. And for the Rapids, yes, they did salvage a point in this game, but I think they'll also be left frustrated by the fact that they were by far the better team in this game, and yet they still only got a point out of this one and only scored 1 goal out of this. Just kind of shows the continued frustration that this team is going through, and now they're 7 games without a win, and it's now been 7 games since they last won a game all the way back in March against Orlando City, before this season basically was temporarily postponed. But moving on, in terms of the next match, is RSL versus LAFC, and I actually got the score wrong in this. It was not a 3-0 victory for LAFC, and I know people are probably screaming in the comments right now, talking about how did LAFC get a 3-0 win when I see on the league website that it was RSL that, of course, got a 3-0 result. Well, the reason because of that is because it was my mistake. And keep in mind, I was writing the board when this game was still going on. I think I started writing the board when the Quakes were down 6-0 at this point. So, yeah, I was kind of keeping an eye on this game and also writing the board and kind of multitasking. And when I, of course, do that, yeah, it's going to be a little bit unfortunate that I eventually will have to make a mistake. And, I apologize to RSL fans in advance, the fact that when you first click on this video and saw your team lost 3-0, and that of course was just my mistake. And I'll basically even leave in the description below, talk about it was my bad in terms of putting the score wrong in your game. But either way, in this one between RSL and LAFC, and I knew coming into this game RSL had a good chance to beat LAFC, and that when I saw the team in this game and how LAFC was trying to do the same thing that RSL did in the game against Colorado, which is they decided to go with a relatively weak team, then yeah, I thought RSL chances of winning this one could winning this one just kind of quadruple at that point. But LAFC almost scored the opening goal in the second minute after there was a scramble in the box, and this would really be the story for LAFC in this game, because despite the fact that they had a lot of chances to potentially put the ball into the back of the net, they weren't able to do it because they were lacking that finishing that they usually have. And also the RSL goalkeeper Andrew Putna, he had a game of his life with some of the incredible save that he would be making in this game. Now, 7 minutes later, after LAFC almost got the opening goal, it would be RSL, the one that gets the opening goal, and it would be the Karate Kid, Damar Krylak, able to score from Michael Chan to give RSL a 1-0 lead. LAFC had a chance to tie the game up in the 34th minute, but Putna was able to deny Rossi a chance to get the equalizer, and Rossi could have easily had 2 or 3 goals in this game if Putna was not able to rob him multiple times in this one. In the second half, 2 minutes into this, Justin Merrim scores after a poor set-piece defending coming from LAFC. Defending, especially on the set-piece for LAFC, has just been a nightmare for these past couple of games, and that I have a feeling something's got to be done with this defense for LAFC, because if this is going to be a team that is thinking about rebounding after this tough stretch that they have gone through in the last 5 games, they need to not only potentially get Vela back to his best after this injury, but this defense need to fix itself, because you just cannot go into the playoffs or expect to be a team that competes for MLS Cup if you decided to have just a hot garbage defense that this LAFC defensive line has shown in the past couple of games. Now, in the 53rd minute, Putna once again robbed Rossi a chance to at least give LAFC one back in this game, before it was Safuntes' turn to be the victim of Putna making a great save, as Safuntes definitely put some power on the corner, but Putna was able to catch that one on his lines. Then in the 67th minute, or not the 67th minute, but the 62nd minute, Putna was able to deny Rodriguez, as I also put Putna was just on fire at that point. Like, I just have a feeling with the way that he was making some incredible save, this feels like it's just not going to be the night for LAFC, and that I think he most likely is going to get a clean sheet out of this one. And in the 79th minute, Rusnak was able to score a penalty after Harvey was the culprit in terms of handball into the box. Not only at that point it was game, set, and match, but I was really hoping that RSL was able to get a clean sheet and that Putna was able to be able to make a couple of decent saves to get his clean sheet in this game, which he did do that for the last 10 minutes of this game. And overall, he was able to get the clean sheet after just such a stellar performance that he had in this game. Shots in this one, 19 shots compared to 18 that LAFC had. Both teams had 8 shots on goal, 5 shots that was off target compared to 5 also for LAFC, 6 shots that was blocked compared to 5 that LAFC had, and possession-wise, 43% possession compared to 57% possession, as this is now the 4th loss in 5 games for LAFC, and yeah, I don't blame LAFC fans start to panic about this team with the way how much they struggle in this, and that I just feel like as long as this defense is going to be the way it is, then I just feel like they have no shot in terms of winning MLS Cup, and that, you know, Bob Bradley's got to get this defense going, and also you need to get the attack going too, because in these last couple of games they have not actually scored a bunch of goals. I mean, if you just ignored the game that they had against the Quakes where they were able to put 5 against them, they actually have, I think they didn't score a goal in this game, and that they didn't score a goal against the Galaxy. They did score 1 goal against Seattle. So yeah, they only scored 1 goal in these 4 losses that they suffer. So yeah, clearly that offense need to get going, despite the fact that I know a lot of people are pointing out that the defense is just kind of a huge issue, and the reason why LAFC is really struggling ever since they got eliminated in the MLS's back tournament. But finally, getting into the last game of this review, and I'm going to put this notebook down, put everything down, because I want to be serious at this point. So, if you expect me to do a rant after this one, then I'm sorry, that is not going to happen, because really I don't get super angry about the Quakes anymore, mainly because I'm starting to see kind of the reality of this team, and that I think there's really 2 ways I can summarize this game before I actually get into the meat and grind of this. And the 2 things that I can say is that, 1, when I saw the lineup in this game that Almeida puts, I knew instantly we were going to lose. Like, the way that he basically decided to put his reserve squad and put a bunch of guys that hasn't really been playing a lot of minutes with this team, yeah, that is a clear sign that we are just coming into this game and we're expected to lose. And the second thing that I will say about this team is that this result is years in the making. This result is not an accident just because of how bad we've been in the last couple of games. This is just a something that's been years in the making, and kind of just summarized the San Jose Earthquakes as an organization for the past couple of years. An organization that is being very cheap in terms of their spending, a lot of mismanagement from top to bottom. The recruitment of the players is clearly not there anymore, and just a team that clearly is stuck in this MLS 1.0 mindset, when this MLS 1.0 mindset has clearly moved away from the league for the past couple of years. And as a result of all that, this is exactly the result that happened. Now, getting into this game, and in the first half, just 4 minutes into this game, Jordan Morris scores from Arriaga, and yeah, this was just super easy for Jordan Morris. The fact that he basically just walked down Broadway, and there was no Quakes player was able to challenge and penetrate him on the defense area, is the reason why we conceded this one. And this would be the story of the night, where this Quakes defense, I don't know did they even show up in this game, and do they even care coming into this game? Because 12 minutes later, Rui Diaz would score from Ladero and Jones, and throughout multiple goals that I've seen we concede this game is because of the fact that there's been multiple times where we let a Sounders player just completely on mark on the right side, and they basically just easily pass it to the player on the right side who just had an easy run to get into the box completely uncontested and slots it into the back of the net. And an example of that happened again in the next goal when Leardon was able to score from Jones and Rui Diaz, where again Rui Diaz was just completely left on mark, and that, you know, that's just something you just clearly cannot do when you're facing one of the most lethal goal scorer this league. Now, it would be 4-0 in favor of Seattle after Jones would score from Ruidíaz. Before, Ruidíaz would be scoring from Morris, and this was one of those goals where, yeah, he basically just completely outruns the Quakes defense, and this time he basically just outrun Youngworth. Kind of similar to, I think, what happened in that LAFC game when Rossi just completely outpaced Beeson there, and that this was just kind of a very similar goal. And at that point, it was a 5-0 game for the Seattle Sounders. And at that point, I just feel like I feel like this as much as I was expecting us to lose in this game, I definitely did not expect the fact that the Quakes defense just completely collapsed and just didn't really want to care. And as we head into the second half, I was expecting Almeida to make some substitution and really decided to just completely get rid of his back line and bring in some fresh players heading into the second half, and bringing players that actually cares and want to wear the Quakes shirts and wear the badge of this team. But instead, he made no substitution heading into the second half. And as a result of that, the domination and the demoralization that the Seattle Sounders put against the Quakes continue into the second half. João Paulo would score in the 48th minute. I believe this is his first ever MLS goal from Leardon and Morris to make it 6-0 at that point. Before, it was 7-0 in favor of the Seattle Sounders when Jovan Jones was able to score from Morris. And at that point, I feel like, yeah, we are right at that point where the Quakes could be on the record books for the wrong reason, and that the Sounders are going to be in the record books as the team that have scored the most goal in a single game. 7 goals is the most goal that any MLS team has able to score. I think it has happened a couple times before. Most recently, I think 2 years ago, Atlanta was able to score 7 past New England, and I thought Seattle was going to do that. But after that 7 goal, Almeida finally decided to make the substitution, and I thought the new batch of player that he brought in clearly brought a little bit more energy to this team. And then in the 69th minute, they did win a penalty after Arriaga made a very silly challenge. And I think if there's only one negative that the Seattle Sounders coming out of this game is the fact that they concede that penalty. And that I'm pretty sure Stephen Fry is not going to be happy with Arriaga ruining his clean sheet and probably getting one of the easiest clean sheet that he will ever get. Wando was able to put away the penalty to make it 7-1 at that point. And for the last 20 minutes, the Quakes, they were trying their best to maybe get another goal and was trying to at least play for pride a little bit. And the Sounders was kind of just pretty much on a walking pace with the way that they know that this game, of course, was over, and at least kind of show a little bit mercy to the Quakes that they're not going to break the record for the most goal scored by a single team in a game. And that, of course, is the final score of this game. 7-1 in favor of the Seattle Sounders. 16 shots compared to 11 that the Quakes had. 11 shots on goal compared to 5 that the Quakes had. 3 shots off target compared to 1 that the Quakes had. 2 shots that was blocked compared to 5 that the Quakes had. And possession-wise, 57% possession compared to 43% possession that the San Jose Earthquakes had. And that, I think after this game, if Almeida decided to announce his resignation from this club, I don't blame him. Because I think you can clearly see he has pretty much lost his touch and lost his belief that he can, of course, get this team going. And that, I think tomorrow, I expect there's got to be an explanation from this organization to address this issue. And that, besides the fact that I won't be surprised if tomorrow I'm going to hear the announcement that Almeida either decided to resign or that the organization decided to fire him after the 7-1 result, because this is definitely a fireable offense with the way that we just got embarrassed in this game. I expect there's also got to be a couple of other official in this high or other high-rank official in this Quakes organization to be following Almeida for departure, because this is absolutely unacceptable for this Quakes organization, and that us fans clearly don't deserve what we've seen from this team. And that, as I said in the beginning, this team is just rotten from top to bottom, and that the only way I can see this team to be a team that maybe can come back to be a team that is being a competitive MLS team is that, one, we got to get rid of the philosophy that this team has, or whatever the culture and the man marking system that we are using in this game. Two, Jesse Forinelli, if you have any dignity whatsoever, you must resign right now with the way that you have just put such a horrible squad together, and all those lies that you have been mentioning for the past couple of years have just been enough to demand a resignation. The scouting department, that needs to be completely overhauled with the way that how many times we have been signing these foreign players and how much they have kind of let down this team. Scouting department needs to, of course, let go. And the most important part of this team, John Fisher. I know I haven't mentioned a lot about his name, but if you actually ask any Quakes fan or actually even go onto their Reddit page talking about John Fisher, they would mention how they demand him to sell the team, and that really, I just beg John Fisher to finally sell this team to actually an owner that cares, because you can clearly see he doesn't care about this team. This is a resort that he probably would just wouldn't even care, and probably would just think more about the profit that he is going to make in the very next game. And if we do have these kind of owners that doesn't really care about this team and doesn't put the product and willing to spend money to invest in this team, then you clearly do not deserve to be the owner of this San Jose Earthquakes organization. But at the end of the day, I demand explanation from this team, because if I don't see explanation from this team, I'm gonna cancel my season ticket. And I know I've been thinking about canceling my season ticket for a bit starting from that 2018 season, where I was actually this close from canceling my season ticket. But when I heard the announcement of Almeida, that was kind of the reason why I decided to keep my season ticket for another moment. But I feel like now it's just to a point where, since there's just no vision whatsoever with this team, and it seemed like the ownership of this team is using us fans as a profit, what is the point of me being a season ticket of this team? And again, if they do not explain what has gone on in this team, and there's no action that is made with this team in the next couple of games, I will call my season ticket representative, and I will tell him I'm going to cancel my season ticket, because I feel like this is unacceptable with the way that how this organization is run, and us fans just don't deserve the way that how this team, of course, have run the way that it has just kind of led to the result of what we saw tonight in this game. But with that being said, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash that subscribe button. Again, as I said, this was going to be a longer video as possible, because I did take a lot of time talking about this game and specifically in this one. But let me know in the comments below, what do you think of these 6 games? And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time.